Okay, Andrew Charlton, your colleague, Treasurer Jim Chalmers, had talks with US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, also with European Central Bank head Christine Lagarde about the issues facing the Northern Hemisphere banking system. Deutsche Bank, the latest to wobble. How worried is the Labor government about a banking crisis?
Well, people who are looking at the unfolding crisis in the US banking system need to know one thing, and that is that the source of that crisis was Donald Trump's decision to wind back the banking regulation and supervision that was added after the global financial crisis. That was the Dodd-Franc Act, and Donald Trump wound that back for precisely the types of smaller and regional institutions that are now getting into trouble. That was a terrible mistake. It failed to learn the lesson of the global financial crisis, and people in Australia should be comforted that we haven't done that. We did learn those lessons. We did introduce stronger banking regulation and supervision, and our supervisors are doing a good job at ensuring that our banking system is stable, and we continue to believe that it is.
So even if there is a continuing banking crisis or financial institution crisis overseas, you're confident we'll be fine here?
I'm certainly confident that Australia's banks are in a much better position. They are much better capitalised. They are much better regulated than the US banks. Now, of course, there are lots of institutions, and for that matter, individuals, who are struggling at the moment because we have had a period of the lowest interest rates in 500 years, the cheapest money in 500 years, followed by an unexpectedly sharp rise in interest rates. So that means that there is a lot of pain right through the economy. We see it in mortgages, we see it in the corporate sector, we see it in the banking sector, but people need to be confident that our banks are well regulated and well capitalised.
And already Westpac, as an example, has possessed 200 homes from families. James McGrath, do you think the RBA should pause rates next week, given inflation is at 6.8% today, so it has come off a bit?
I was going to start by agreeing with Andrew. I know you probably want us to have a bit of controversy
agreeing
here.
Agreeing with him on blaming Donald Trump for the banking crisis?
No, just let me finish, please. Yep. In terms of, I do think Australia has a very strong banking system, a very appropriately regulated banking system, and I think that your viewers should be full of warmth to know that the banking system in Australia is probably the best in the world and is appropriately regulated. In relation to what's going to happen with interest rates, look, the Reserve Bank is independent, and the last thing the Reserve Bank needs is people like myself throwing peanuts at them from the peanut gallery, saying what they should do in relation to interest rates. The Reserve Bank will make an appropriate decision in relation to where they see inflation is going and what they see the federal government is doing in relation to its own levers.
The RBA review, Andrew, is coming out on Friday. Do you expect that it is going to recommend tangible outcomes that will help with accountability and transparency for the decisions of, and even not only the decisions, but for the statements the RBA governor makes that can influence whether people are, borrowing a lot from the banks?
Look, absolutely, and I think the terms of the RBA review are pretty broad. They go to governance, they go to operations, and I hope that review, will be looking at the broad suite of areas where the RBA has done a good job and areas where we can think about improving and modernising the RBA for the future, including the governance and making sure that the governance of the RBA is representative, that everybody can look at the RBA board and see a diversity of opinions, and people that are going to bring different backgrounds and experiences to decisions that affect people very greatly every day. So I think we're all looking forward to the RBA review, and it will...
Even a union member, there's been some speculation that maybe someone like Sally McManus might want to be on the RBA board.
Well, look, I'll leave that speculation to the review, but from my perspective, having a diversity of views on the RBA board would be a welcome thing for most Australians.